Dr. Jessica Ash here. Today, I have the honor of discussing your health span, which is different from your lifespan, with Lydia D. and Laura Minquini. So stay tuned. Dr. Jessica Ash here. We seem to be having some technical difficulties. Let's see how this goes. So I'd like to welcome Lydia D. and Laura Minquini without further ado, and they will tell you about our conversation. Welcome, Lydia, and welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me, Jessica.
Yes. So if we continue to have technical difficulties, we can restart if that's necessary.
Sounds good.
I'm having trouble adding Laura. Lydia, are you seeing anything that looks like
I'm seeing everyone except that there's a delay when it comes to you speaking to us.
Okay.
The same for me.
Yeah, I'm not seeing Laura. I can't add her. So here's what I'm thinking to do, ladies. If you can both hear me, I'm thinking to end this broadcast and go live from a different computer.
That's fine.
Sure.
Now I see you both. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let you both talk about why we're here, and I'm going to go backstage and do some things, and I'll let you guys talk, okay?
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Laura, would you like to go first?
Sure. So my name is Laura Minquini. I'm the founder of Minquini, we're a discovery and recommendation hub for longevity. And what I mean by longevity is not life extension so much as quality of life, extending health span. There is a huge gap between our health span and our lifespan. In the Western world, it's about 20% of your life you could potentially spend sick. And that's why I think all the biotech, all the innovation that is happening in longevity is crucial for better quality of life and for people to age actually much better. I used to volunteer at retirement homes and hospitals. When I discovered the aging space there, I realized that we end our days in really horrible ways. And we don't think of this until we're really far along the way on our 50s. We could be doing so much more in preventative wellness, but our healthcare is centered in reactive health. And that is a huge problem. And that's why I think we need to promote longevity to extend health span.
Thank you,
Lydia?
Laura. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate what you're doing. My name is Lydia D. I am the owner of Enter Wellness. I concentrate more in the mind as an executive coach. Also, I speak, mostly boardroom speaking. I'm also a diversity trainer. I am originally from Haiti. This is where the accent is coming from. I own other companies in the device testing business, also commercial real estate. However, today we will be concentrating with Enter Wellness. I am here to speak with Laura and Dr. Jessica regarding longevity, regarding the Western world, how we view longevity and what we think of it, and how we see those around us has value what it is to have a long life or short life. What is it to value the elders and what it is to not value the elders in the Western world and out elsewhere. So I am here to support and have this conversation going. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you both here, and I'm glad that I've been able to work through some of our technical difficulties. So I'm going to start with you, Laura, and I'd like for you to tell me what is the difference, or why is the term health span important?
Simply because I think there's a big miscommunication on what longevity means. A lot of people think it means life extension, which I think it's important. And I think people should live as long as they want. It's giving them the choice to live with health span that matters. We don't think of longevity as meaning that, but quality of life is crucial. What happens as we age is our body tends to degenerate, and this is where the problems really start. We're not paying enough attention to how much can we live longer with health, because that's what's crucial. If you live to 100 and 150 and 60 of those years are spent sick, what's the point? I think it's because people think of longevity as life extension or some hubris of technologists or really rich people. I've been into conversations where people think that's what longevity is. Some wealthy people, white men who want to live longer. No, that's not it. There is a lot of people, the number one fear of people is to lose their minds. And by that, I mean Alzheimer's or dementia. This is where longevity and health span play a crucial part. We need to equate longevity with living longer, with quality of life independently, with our brain function, with our body function, with strength. That's why I always say health span is crucial. And of course, it's not the pandemic if a dog or a child doesn't show up.
I agree. My dog is usually scratching at my door. So. Dogs are welcome here. All pets.
Well, he's here.
So, and Lydia, building off of what Laura just said, what do you think are some elements that can contribute to being healthy longer in life?
Oh my goodness. She actually hit it on the head when she mentioned the fact that a large amount of people, their number one fear in the Western is dementia and Alzheimer's. If you can keep your mind sharp, if you can keep your health sharp, meaning do not stop moving, because once we stop moving, we become stagnant. And what is stagnant? You might as well be dead. So I believe what can add to that is keep the mind sharp. And a large amount of keeping the mind sharp, because studies have found the brain is connected with the stomach, is having the right nutritions. Family members, I believe gathering with family members and very good friends also contribute to the mind staying sharp. Yes, there's games that have been created for a large amount of us to play to keep the mind sharp. However, I do believe that nutrition, gathering with family members and friends, and keep moving are keys to keep the mind sharp and the body going. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, it's also not the pandemic. If you haven't heard, you're muted once per day. Although it was my New Year's resolution to not have that said to me once this year. So I guess that's the end of my New Year's resolution, but I'll keep working at it.
That's right.
So it's worth mentioning that I was in a room in Clubhouse with Lydia this morning. I tried to pin you, Laura, but I guess
I arrived a bit late.
Okay. And we were talking about gratitude, and there are not just gratitude, but self-love and
affirmation.
And there's a list of 10 habits that can increase your health. So yeah, we can go into diet, of course, in greater detail, but I just wanted to say that, there are habits that can increase health too. Connecting with nature, no matter how cold it is outside. And I went for
and you were out there. You were out there today.
And then gratitude. Especially in times of hardship, if you can find a way to be grateful for the things that you do have, it can help reduce the stress of whatever bad event you're going through. So, Laura, you have a number of directions you could take this from here. Do you want to talk about diet or other habits?
I want to say that what Lydia mentioned about, and what you also second, the mindset is so important. The thing is that it's the hardest part to deal with, because people want a pill that will either help them live longer, or help them with their sugar levels, or even with dementia or Alzheimer's. And in the end, how you view things, it's something that you control. It has nothing to do with a pill. As you said, gratitude is super crucial. I keep saying, when people talk about what things do you recommend, and taking away stem cell therapies or things that are very technical, I would say three things: stress, which has to do with your mindset, sugar levels, and sleep. There is a crisis of in North America and in the Western world of too much sugar. Our food is full of it. And sugar has proven to be one of the biggest problems in getting in degenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's. A paper just came out about this world, and it talks about glucose hypometabolism. I'm not saying stop eating chocolate cake, but don't have it every day. Sleep is the most important thing. You need to get those 8 hours, but there's this total overglorification of entrepreneurship, of waking up at 4 a.m. and like already having a million meetings before you're at 6 a.m. Wake up at 4, but that means you're going to sleep at 8 p.m. Not, not
That's
sleep.
right. I'm up at 4:45, but I'm in bed at 9:30. You
Yes.
see?
So by all means, if you do those things, you need to
Hmm.
get on those hours of sleep. Do whatever you can. I mean, then stress, that's the biggest thing with mindset, because there is not a pill to take away the stress. We all have it. And how we choose our thoughts, or what occupies our brains, is what it's going to dictate the rest of our day, the rest of how we feel, our energy level. I mean, it's crazy. I'm not into new age things, but if you choose to focus on the bad, that's where things are going to go. And if you choose to be grateful of every day of your health, the pandemic was a great moment for people to realize how important health is. Without it, you could have all the money in the world, but a pandemic showed you that you're still going to stay home and be secluded from everyone. And it didn't discriminate. There were political leaders, there were billionaires, celebrities. The pandemic made no differentiator. Of course, it impacted people in the lower economic class, but it touched everyone. So mindset, it is very important. I do think that there's a lot you can do in terms of your diet, the sugar, the sleep, that you don't necessarily need to go and get all these are treatments that are now being promoted with longevity.
And it's worth noting, you're not saying that we're not going through stress. You're only, and this is an important thing when we talk about mindset, is that there is fear, there is real danger out in the world. But the idea of mindset is, how do you protect your organs, really? How do you protect your brain and your heart and like your blood pressure from the horrors that are out there? Relatives are dying. And so you're not saying that bad things don't happen.
No, I mean, life is full of everything. We're all going to go through struggles. We're all going to go through amazing things. It's where we choose to focus on those struggles that make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And we cannot take it too far. We think mindset is going to solve your problems. It's not. It takes action, it takes planning, it takes a lot of other things. Mindset is also not going to solve if you have a sugar problem. If you say, "Oh, great, I'm fine." That's not what I'm saying. Is when you're thinking of negative things, when life is getting hectic, just divert thought. And I'm not a mind expert. I think Lydia would be better positioned to explain this. I just wanted to say that there are very simple things we can all do to extend our longevity. And all of them have to do with, indeed, the stress, which is controlled by mindset, sugar, which is controlled by your everyday diet, and sleep, which you can choose to put your schedule. Those things are very simple. Then there are all the other amazing things you can do, but you can start with those. Everybody can start on their longevity today, this moment.
And I want to spend a little time on the word diet, because I know so many people who, and I don't really like the word diet, because in my background, I know 100 people who have been on the latest diet their whole lives, and they're still obese. And you and I were talking earlier in the week about, let's talk about our eating habits instead, and healthy eating habits. And where does that start? And I think it starts in childhood, and that it's really incumbent on parents to give their children healthy eating habits, because once you have a bad habit, it's really hard to undo it. I can't undo my coffee with sugar. I love my coffee with sugar. Not that that's my parents' fault, but talk to me a little bit about healthy eating habits. We all know that we need to eat green things. We need protein. We need water. And, aside from that, it's all fluff or fiber, but yeah, talk to me a little bit about healthy eating habits and how we can return to them.
I think one of the biggest things people can do that can help them is actually see a professional nutritionist. I am not I know what I do for myself, and I've experimented with many things. I know that there are a lot of diet fads, and the most difficult thing about diets is making them a lifestyle. Because it's very easy to be motivated at the beginning of the year and say, I'm going to lose X amount of pounds. I'm going to take this diet and do it for 2 months, 3 months. You see the results, and then you get back to your lifestyle. We have to compound our habits as well. Try to pick up things along the way that will make a difference in the long term. Whether it is you put a lot of lemon all of a sudden into your food, which it's alkaline for your stomach, for your gut health, or you take away the sugar on your coffee and keep the coffee, because coffee is actually good for you with moderation. It does promote brain function. With sugar, not so great, Jessica. But it's about habits, and you're an educator. You're the one who told me about it. When we've talked about this, you say you're working with your children to at least instill these things in there. For them to learn how to eat well early, it's the biggest gift you can give, I think, children. I don't have children, I have a dog, but I know that even with his diet, when you think that dogs are also getting sick, the food crisis is even extending to our pets. And it's because of all the preservatives, all of these things. You have to try to change all of that. It's expensive to eat well. This is the other thing that we don't talk about. The reason people are eating bad is because eating good vegetables is expensive. It's so easy to grab I don't want to say like a macaroni and cheese box. It's like $1.99. So imagine people that don't have the means. We can't blame them for this, but I think collectively we can try to change little habits that will make a difference in the long term.
Yes, not only it's expensive, Laura, if I may add to that, Jessica.
Of course.
Not only it's expensive, is people do not have time to prepare meals. They just don't have the lifestyle that gives them the opportunity to prepare a meal from scratch. Sometimes it may not be the most healthy meal, but the fact that it is built from scratch, you know how much salt, you know how much peppers, you know how much herbs that is added to it, makes a difference. Not having the time to prepare and the cost of good vegetables is creating some of the problems as well.
Yes. Well, and we've lost Laura. So the technical difficulties just continue, but we're continuing on, aren't we?
That's right. That's right.
Yes. So we've been talking about healthy eating, and
the mindset.
One of the things that I do, I have there's a philosophy about the phrase, I don't have time for that. And the philosophy goes that if you say, I don't have time, that means it's not a value to you.
Right.
You just don't care. At the end of the day, if every day you say, I don't have time, then so obviously I'm very busy. I'm guilty of getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and definitely falling asleep on the couch at 8:30 at night. But I can eat a banana. And in fact, today I've eaten a banana and pea pods and turkey jerky. And none of those took a lot of time. I just grabbed handfuls of healthy food. I didn't have to grab handfuls of potato chips. And so I would
That's right.
say, yeah.
And also, the things that we also need to keep in mind when it comes to making good choices, it's preparation meeting the opportunity at that moment. If you didn't make the right choices when you were making the preparation of purchasing, making the choices of purchasing those things that you would like to have in your pantry, in your home, in order for when the time comes to make the good choices can be made faster and easier. The opportunity to make the good choices would not have been there.
I
Go ahead.
like that. The only thing I have to say is that I think people are confused now. What's the right choice and the good choice? And that is one of the problems. I mean, the internet is incredible because it gives access to people to education. And now we're at the point where it gives them access to too much education, where people who are not really professionals or who don't know what they're talking about are able to also put out content and say, this is what you should try. And because as humans, we tend to want to go for the easiest solution because we don't have time, we don't have money, or we want simple solutions. The first person that comes along and tells you, take these pills or take this, drink this tea, you're going to lose weight. We go for it. So that's why I think curation now is so important. Having centralized vetted hubs of this information for people to really know what the good choice is. You know, you hear it. One day banana is okay. The next day sugar spike. No, it's not okay. One day meat is okay. The next day it's not. I myself, for instance, I tried being a vegan. I'm a vegetarian for a bit. It didn't work for me. I just needed to eat meat, and I feel horrible about like how in North America, obviously, meat production is a catastrophe. So I try not to eat too much of it, but I know I need it, and people need to also go by their own choices. You are going to feel the moment you start feeling lighter, more alert, more energy, you know that your body is doing the right thing. So if you're eating things and you're sluggish, and I mean, if you're, let's say, trying this vegetarian thing and you're sluggish, you're not feeling well, then it's not working for you. We're all different. And it takes a bit of research, coming across the right experts, having, I mean, we're fortunate in the Western world to have way too much food, actually, way too much of everything. So in a way, our problem now it's editing, not so much not lack of. That's why when you have these conversations, it's so important to make the differentiation between people in the Western world, people that have already a certain, they've kind of met all their needs between having a job, money to eat, and then we start with that, and then we really have to look at how can we solve also the issue for people that don't have that problem, which is don't have enough food, and then they're eating also the wrong things because, as I said, I come from Mexico. Mexico is the most obese country in the world. Why? Because the cheapest food is the snacks, the pop. So when people make such little money, this is what they're buying. And the sugar, it keeps them with energy. So people then, what happens? They become fat. And what happens when you become fat? Then the diabetes, the heart disease, all of this starts. So the extending lifespan was one of the greatest accomplishments of this century. And yet, we're living that extended lifespan sick, and that is the problem. That's why bringing back to health span is so crucial.
And I agree with you about finding the right information and the correct information, and at the same time, like it's really it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like Lydia was saying, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a bag of carrots or a bag of celery instead of a bag of potato chips, then when you're hungry, and people laugh at me, but I teach class at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll chew on celery while I'm teaching because, or a raw green pepper. Some people spend lots and lots of time cutting up vegetables to make this gorgeous salad. I don't have time for that, but I'm still making time to make healthy choices. And one other note is it's not just the Western world anymore that has, obesity problems. China's biggest problem right now is an increase in obesity. So anybody who is a have, as opposed to the have-nots, they suddenly have so much that I love your phrase about editing. They have to edit what they eat. It's not. So there's one other topic that we haven't touched much on, or one other habit, and that's about exercise. And so I'm wondering, Lydia, welcome back. We're working with our technical issues. And so Lydia, I'm wondering if you could say something about a healthy move. And we don't even have to talk about exercise. We can talk about just physically moving, because we're humans and designed to do that.
That's right. I am here in the Midwest. Therefore, it is freezing cold. I wish I could show you guys what's happening outside of my window. It is snowing, it's cold. And movement is something that most people, when it's around this time of year, they want to spend most of their time in bed or on the couch, on their sheets, and not move much, especially for a day like today, where mostly everything is canceled here. I have found, for me as an entrepreneur, as a mother, as a family person, the only thing that works for me is yoga. I can practice yoga wherever I go. I can practice yoga wherever I am. If I am reading, I can practice yoga. I can practice yoga. It keeps the body moving. However, if yoga is not your cup of tea, just moving around the kitchen, just moving around the bedroom while you're fixing your bed, there's certain way you move your body. There's certain ways I move my body in the shower. That is a form of working certain muscles. Any type of movement that you literally push a little bit harder is a form of exercise. I do not like the excuse, I do not have time. My lifestyle doesn't permit for me to exercise. Come on.
I think you were having technical difficulties when I said, if you say I don't have time, philosophically that means it's not important to me.
That's right.
I don't have time, because you can make time.
It's of no value to you whatsoever.
And that's where mindset comes into play. If somebody's watching and they're thinking, I don't have time to exercise, like in the morning, my sister laughs at me. I brush my teeth and do squats and yoga poses. Like I'm brushing my teeth in Warrior 2. And my sister thinks I'm crazy. But then one of the first things I do in the morning is I just do 100 sit-ups to keep that core strong. That doesn't even take 2 minutes.
Mm-mm.
It's not about time. You have to brush your teeth. Do you have to brush your teeth while sitting on a stool? Or could you use that, not that everybody needs to do that while they're brushing their teeth, but are people...
Well, they can sit on the medicine bowl. What about the medicine bowl? There's so much that you can do. It's just a matter of putting intention behind it and act on it.
I think this conversation is super valuable. And, here's another one. Oh, I have to Zoom all day. I don't have time for exercise. I created the most ridiculous video in iMovie of me doing exercises on this chair. Like I'm standing up behind the chair, doing little squats. And then I take my dog, who's little, and I do lifting exercises with my dog. I guess you can't do that if you have a lab. But I was trying to, and my students will say, oh, I can't go outside. There's COVID. Like you can't get fresh air because there's COVID.
It's so important to go get fresh air. And I think, if people even just took a 15-minute walk, there's a study that goes into how it helps you to, it reduces your chances of getting Alzheimer's. Like a 15-minute walk every day.
Yes.
I think people need to even take the most basic steps. When they're out in a walk faster so that you're actually getting all your muscles going. It's so crucial. I think the other thing to mention that's correlated between diet and exercise is a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting because now it's become like the thing of the day. And not enough people are talking about how much muscle mass is lost when you do intermittent fasting. It's crucial that if you get into that game, you are also doing strength and strength training. Because one of the hugest problems when we age is we lose, well, our muscle mass and fragility sets in. If you're already also putting your body through that strain of losing muscle mass while you're in your 30s and 40s, you're actually doing yourself a lot of disservice. This is the other conversation that a lot of people also, when you're talking about longevity, they talk about. So now there are things that optimize your sleep, right? Where you like to put a ring on or bed, the thing now you can track your sleep. The thing now is people are getting stressed about optimizing what they're trying to actually make better. And we have to be very careful because imagine you're optimizing your sleep and then you're like, I slept only 6 hours, 0 1 instead of 8. And then you bring on the stress. I mean, it's all about balance, right? Because if once we start, there's an app for everything now. There's
Yeah.
there's even apps now to measure your lifespan, which that's where people got into a conversation recently. It's like if you were told how long you're going to live, a lot of people were said, I don't want to know. And I understand why. Because as I think, I don't know if we were having this conversation offline with Lydia and you, Jessica, not everybody's prepared. Not everybody wants to live to 100, 150. Whether
Right.
because they're afraid or whether because they're like, they only prepared to save until they're 80. It's not like the end of the rainbow living longer. Not for everyone. It's all about personal choice and balance on everything we do.
Yes. And we haven't talked about tobacco use, but that kind of hits home that we know we need to eat green things and protein. It's not like that's not known. And we know that we need to move physically. And we know that tobacco use is bad for us. But before we say goodbye, I'd like to talk a little bit about if we know what we're supposed to do, why don't we do it? And how can we create a situation where more people are making the right choices? Lydia?
As a coach, I can tell you from experience why people don't do the things that they don't do. From my experience with clients, and I guess that will be called data, the reason that they don't do what they're supposed to do, it's because, again, it is of no value to them. They do not see the long-term gain, or they cannot see the long-term gain, or they do not have the knowledge behind what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Therefore, they cannot see the value of why they're supposed to do it. That's my experience so far.
Do you see is there a way to help people and get back to making the right choices?
Oh yes, that's exactly what I do. And once I get into a business environment, or if it's an executive that I'm working with one-on-one, it's to assist them on going subconsciously why they are doing the things that they are doing. What's the gain behind them doing what they are doing?
Yes.
And how we can transform that for them to get the result that they need to get in order to maximize to reach what it is that they are attempting to reach. Oh yes, the goal is to first knowledge, second show them the value, and create a system or plan of attack. Deadline.
That's awesome. So Laura, do you have any last words? Because we're kind of running out of time.
I think that Lydia hit on something that's very important, the data, because we are full of data. And even people, they say, now you can get this to optimize, know your sugar, glucose levels. And just this one more thing to know. It is about what we do with the data that will matter. And I think you also ask $1 million question, Jessica. How how do people get to change things that they know are not good for them? It's the $1,000,000 question, because it's sometimes very difficult for people in general to do what's best for them. And it's not just on our health, it's on our relationships, in our careers, in everyday life. There are, it's, I think, also like a code that people are trying to crack in terms of how do we transmit even the idea of longevity in a way that people want to subscribe to. Because right now I feel a lot of people think longevity, I hear it. They think longevity of this other extra thing that they don't want in their lives. They don't understand that it has to do with health span, back to the subject of the conversation today. There's so much that we could be that they could be doing already today. And I think it's about, I love what Lydia said. If everybody had a Lydia coach, that would be amazing. We need to, as they say, scale that kind of model where, because not everyone has an access to a coach, and a lot of people have a lot of data. They just don't know how to use it, and they don't know how to measure. And the key is having the parameters or setting up things for people in the general public, because all these innovations are so amazing, but they'll be even better if we get them to a lot of people to really change how, as a society, we view things. And I'm very particular about this because I'm very cognizant of what's going on in long-term care homes, retirement homes, the way people end their lives. It is quite a tragedy. And only the people that are experiencing right now being locked out of seeing their parents ever again, their parents passing away in these places alone and with not having seen any family member for months, it is horrible. So we need to change the paradigm of how we view our health. Otherwise, I would have to say that people need to understand that it's not a pretty end. And I don't like scaring people for the sake of doing things. But I don't know if we're going off live. I don't believe in selling concepts with scaring people. But that's why I say it's a $1,000,000 question. Because you either have to motivate them and have like an Elon Musk say, I'm doing longevity now, and then all the people get on it, or they need to really see how terrible it is. It's one or the other, or something in between. And I hope we figure out sooner rather than later.
I think you've taken us to a good point of closure, in that if we switch from longevity to health span in terms of thinking, then people may, or we can hope, will make choices to increase their health span, as opposed to, worrying about longevity in those terms.
Well, I still like to use the term longevity, because even in China, they had a god of longevity. And in China, it was just the Chinese New Year. Happy Chinese New Year.
Happy Lunar Year.
There's such a thing as longevity and prosperity, meaning wishing to people a long life. I think what we need to think is long life with health span.
Yes, that's
and when you think of the word longevity, it's extension.
Yes,
it's pulling. So it's extending whatever we already have.
Your beauty, your staying younger, your
extending.
All of those things, extend. You're right, Lydia. Also that extending.
Well, I hope that we have created some awareness today, and I hope that you ladies will come back for an update on this topic.
Jessica, Laura, happy Valentine's Day.
To you too, ladies. Thank you so much, Jessica. Would love to have this conversation again with you too. I love to have these conversations all the time. So
yeah, me too. It's great that we get to hopefully reach some people too.
Yes.
Right. Ladies, happy Valentine's Day, happy Lunar New Year, and thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Laura.
Bye, Lydia. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Jessica. Bye.
So you've been listening to me speak with Laura Minquini of Mikey Guy and Lydia D of Enter Wellness about your health span. Thank you.